Here we are, bringing on somebody that people actually want to hear from.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason. Hi, Tony.
Hey, how are you? Good to see you. I'm very excited about this.
We had congratulations on the event. This is a huge success. Really good content.
Well, thank you. We're trying our best to fill in Hans's huge shoes. He's like a size 17, so it took the three of us to finally get that. I've used that joke 17 times. Hopefully, no one holds it against me. But we had a wonderful workshop yesterday with Botpress, and today we're going to hit you some hard-hitting questions. So I hope you're ready.
Yeah, for sure. Let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's get down to business. So first of all, this makes me laugh. I've heard you say that, quote, and I'm paraphrasing, geez, all chatbots suck on occasion. If you believe that, why on earth did you start a company creating a platform to build chatbots? What is wrong?
Yeah, that's a great question. I started this company by accident. So, just for some context, so I was the CTO of a company in the financial services space. And essentially, I was building this software that was quite complex to use for bankers. And I would wake up in the morning to lots of questions by SMS and email from my customers, my users, on how to use the software, right? And then, I woke up someday just feeling like a robot, translating their English queries over to computer actions. And, I guess like any other engineer, being kind of lazy, I tried to automate myself out of that. And that sort of was a very naive decision or initiative that I took on I think it was in 2015, right? And so I built this internal, stack within this company, and then eventually the chatbot hype, arrived. And so I decided to, hey, I built this before. Let me just open source this. And, just by accident, it became Botpress. A lot of enterprise customers started using it. And so I received a call. I think my first customers were General Electric. They said, we like the framework, but we wanted to be enterprise grade. General Electric. Yeah.
Two little letters.
Right. And so 2015 is so ahead of the time. That was really when you really hit it on the nail there. The timing is perfect.
Yeah. And so anyways, all that to say, chatbots suck, but wasn't a deliberate choice. And so, but let me tell you a story. So I moved house recently, and I had to change my address, right, with my ISP. And so I went on their website naturally to find what their telephone number is. And then there was a small chat bubble on there, and it was written "chat with us." And so I thought, hey, nice, a chatbot. So I don't need to talk to them over the phone. Obviously, I prefer chatting. But then, to my big surprise, I was connected to a human agent, and it took me like 25 minutes to complete my address change. And, honestly, I was the perfect happy path. I didn't diverge from their customer service rep flow. I was the perfect happy path. It still took me 25 minutes. And so I was pretty ashamed. And like another worst story, I guess, 2 months after changing my address, my internet stopped working. And I called them, and then all of that to realize that somehow, for some reason, when you change your address, they delete your credit card, right? And so that's not very obvious. But then I had to spend like 2 hours over the phone just to get my account unlocked, and for me to update my payment, which was late, and so on, not to affect my credit. And all of that could have been done with a bot. And so I think the moral of the story is chatbots may suck, but humans suck too.
I love it.
And I know for a fact that chatbots have a long way, to go before they're human level. But I think they're still reasonably useful, and they are desired by some humans, at least from me. And I think they're much better, than humans in some ways, and they are much better than IVRs for simple tasks. And so the reason why, I created this this company is really to professionalize this craft and take it to the next level. Take the latest research in NLP. How can we make this accessible, to conversation designers, conversation developers, and abstract all the complexity behind that, so that companies like my ISP can actually benefit from this and stop offering, IVRs and human-based assistance. And so, yeah, it's a great time to be in this market. I think everything is going to change in the next 3 to 5 years. So I'm super excited about it. And yeah, the quality of chatbots is going to skyrocket really fast, really soon. And so,
yeah,
super excited.
That brings us to our next question, which is great, because your experience that you're basing this all off of was in 2015. We look at the state today, and well, some are doing better, some not so much. Fast forward that 3 to 5 years, and how do you see the state of things in NLP industry?
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, the hype started because of Facebook opening up their Messenger API, right? And it wasn't backed by any technological breakthrough. But I'm glad it happened, because this spurred a lot of research into that field, right? And so we saw BERT and T5 and BART and GPT-3, and now most recently, like Microsoft's 5 billion parameters, which is crazy, right? And NVIDIA just announced a couple of months back that they should be on target for 2024, I believe, to have like 100 trillion parameters, which is essentially equivalent to how many synapses we have in our brain. And so in theory, we should have chatbots that have the same conversation abilities than we have. And so that's exciting. But even though all this innovation has kind of occurred, we haven't really been able to leverage all of it in our NLU models. And that's because mostly of intents. And so I think one big those models obviously are generic language models. They're not applied to something specific. You need to derive them and apply them to something specific. Very little of the tasks that we study today are actually about conversations. They're mostly about specific tasks in other NLP fields. And I feel like what's really going to happen, because that's what we do at Botpress, right, is that we take this research and try to apply it specifically to conversations. And so what will start happening is that, well, a big trend will be the deprecation or generalization of intents. And so we'll see, and the reason why, there's sort of like 5 reasons why intents suck, and there's more, but like the top 5 is that you need to be a specialized staff, right, to build the data set. It's very not easy to build an NLP data set. And so you see like machine learning engineers and data scientists really involved in building an NLP data set, which makes no sense. And then when non-technical people try to use NLU engines and build their own data sets, and even some of our customers, to be honest, when they come to us and say, hey, your NLU engine doesn't work, and then we look at the data and we're like, no, the NLU engine works, the NLU engine is right, and you don't know what you're doing, right? But obviously, because the customer is always right. And so the problem is not the customer, the problem is the NLU engines, the whole foundation of intents. They're not obvious. Like, you need to know how the NLU engine works. And that's a big problem. The second problem is we're trying to solve tasks that have no human consensus. If you ask 10 different humans to label the same NLU data set, they'll come up with 10 different data sets. They 10 different labels. Some will come up with like hundreds of labels. Some will come with 2 labels. Like, there's really no standard. And so how can you teach a computer to achieve a consensus that even humans doesn't have? And so, to me, that's a big nonsense. And also, like, all intents are single, all your utterances are single intended, which is not really the case. Like, we build everything based on a single intent sentence, but most sentences have 2 or 3
multiple
and
intents,
so
absolutely, yeah.
That's another very big issue. The other issue is like number 4 is like the intents. They don't age well. As your bot grows, you need to refactor, and the number of refactoring you need to do is n. So like whatever number of intents you have, if you add a new one, you kind of need to refactor the whole set of intents that you have, and so they're very hard and to maintain and evolve over time. And intents are not enough, to be honest, because they're just like buckets of classification. And
Sorry,
so,
go ahead. Is it number 5
yeah.
or?
That's number 5. Yeah, sorry,
number 5.
Sort of like a long-winded, answer.
Oh, that's great. It's actually an amazing answer. You're dropping some truth here. But okay, listen. We're at a conversation design festival, and my next question is: since we're at a conversation design festival, I'm biased on this question. Who is the key participants, in your opinion, in building chatbots, conversation designers, and how is that going to change? It's not.
Yeah, well, I think today, obviously, you have a big chunk of the staff is around all the data science, and so you have a lot of data scientists and machine learning engineers, which will go away in the very near future. You have a lot of developers as well, right? Like you have frameworks and you write code for absolutely no reason, but those will partially go away. They still remain to some extent because they need to build integrations and they need to build logic and so on. But this will remain quite a small part of the development, maybe 20% of it. The big role that we'll see is conversation designers, right? Or conversation developers. And they'll be all about customizing a personalized experience. And so they'll be really like the experts on how, what makes a great conversation, a great experience. And so they'll be in charge of architecturing the domain, the knowledge, and the conversational experience. And one thing that, one role that we don't see today that will mostly emerge is the support agents, because they're the one picking up the urgencies that weren't properly understood. But the support agents, won't, in the future, they won't be interacting directly with the customers. They'll be helping the chatbot answer. And so this will be a big paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Once we start having an LG that works, there'll be no reason for the human agent to type directly to the customer, right? It will be much more efficient and much more scalable to have the human agent assist the NLG. And so what will start happening is the support agents will become the biggest trainer of the domain knowledge, right? And so, yeah, this is an exciting shift.
Wow, that's incredible. That's really truly an interesting look at it. Now, what does a designer need to support building a great chatbot, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think they need a great technical mastery of the tools. Tools today are mostly toys, but they'll become just sort of like Photoshop, right? Like before you had Paint, but then came Photoshop. And then, Photoshop now is extremely technical. And so the designers will become much, much more technical than they are currently today, right? So the tools will evolve. It will be easier to sort of create a simple chatbot, but it will be much more technical to create an advanced one. And so what they'll need is great tooling and great expertise in using those tools. They'll also need support from SME support agents, which I've already said. And obviously the developers just for doing like the backend integrations and pulling information and plumbing different systems.
This is amazing. Tony, do you want to ask any more questions? Because I know there's a lot of questions in the chat here, and we don't have that much time. So one last question from Tony, and maybe one question from the crowd if we have time, but we got to keep it short because we have Vittorio Banfi waiting in the wings.
Waiting in the wings. I mean, you bring up. Sorry, Sylvain. You bring up a really good point that the actual conversation designers are scaling with the technology. It's just aligned. Yeah. It's fate. I love that. But how technical does the conversation designer need to be? I've heard you call them conversation developers. So, I assume you think they need to be, deep in chatbot technology.
Yeah, for sure. So there'll be sort of core technical aspects you'll need to master. Just like today, if you, I like the analogy of a game. Building a game, a 3D game. Early in the early on, like engines didn't exist, and so you needed sort of like the 3D game developers and so on. But nowadays you have the Unreal Engine and Unity, which virtually all games are built upon. And so but you just can't give a normal developer the task of building a nice game. Being technical and being a developer is not enough. You need expertise in game design and game building and game dynamics, and sort of the same kind of skill set will be required. And so you'll see, and I don't have all the answers, right? You guys obviously are the experts at conversation design but Institute, but
okay, yeah.
You'll sort of see more
Guilty by association.
more, yeah.
Jeez.
You'll see more of those skills being needed. Yeah.
Wow, this has been eye-opening. I'm a lot of people who stayed up this late to look at this and watch this, minds have been blown. There's questions in the chat here, but I don't think we're going to have enough time, Sylvain, to answer them. Would you mind sticking around and maybe just jumping? Tao Lin has a question. Do you think few-shot learning models would change our traditional conversation design process? What are the pros and cons? It's a very good question, but unfortunately we just don't have time. But maybe you could jump in the chat and just
Yeah, for sure.
And just answer that. Wow, this has been eye-opening.
That's great.